back when my father and uncle started the firm, and if you look historically at the case law they have, you will see that they are both involved in many of their cases. It was a great thing, and me watching them work together. My Uncle Michael had more of a photographic memory and could remember things really, really easily, and case law really easily. My father had probably an amazing speaking voice and was able to just think of things off the top of his head. He could argue to a jury for an hour without having to write any notes. Some of the district attorneys will tell me he would come to court with just a notepad, and they were always afraid of that because they didn't know what he was going to do next. But the key was he and Michael worked together. That's something I learned. Michael Romano and I had a case against each other some years ago, and what I noticed about him is the work he did with his paralegal Stacy, who he still has to this day. They've been together 17 years. And the interaction they had between them, that was similar to the interaction I had with Miss Blanton, who's worked for me for over 20 years, worked for my father for a few years as well. And that we were a team. Michael and I began talking about starting a firm, and we both had that same approach, to work together and to ask each other questions. Mr. Kacharis is the same way. He shared space with me for a short period of time, and we often discussed cases, went to lunch, worked on cases, and just bounced things off of one another. Mr. Johnson shared space with me for many years, and that is kind of how our friendship developed, is we would ask each other questions. Even when he practiced at another law firm, we would sit down and discuss different strategies. Today at Plumides, Romano, Johnson, and Kacharis, we pride ourselves on working together. We're not meeting so that we can charge a client for all 4 lawyers. We're meeting to be prepared for the case. You will often see in our paperwork, if we were to send you a bill, you might see consult with Mr. Plumides on Mr. Romano's paperwork, but you will often see a credit, because our goal is to be prepared as always. And by bouncing off the ideas, I'll often bring Mr. Romano into a consult that I'm having with a client, or bring Mr. Kacharis in on a matter. Mr. Kacharis has handled criminal matters for well over 20 years. He's established a case law, both in federal and state. So he's a great person to bounce issues off of, as well as Mr. Johnson, who is a specialist in family law. Again, by working on it in a collaborative way, we're able to provide a better service to our client. There are occasions where we'll tell our client we feel another lawyer at the hearing table would be better, and we do advise them that it may cost them more. But that's only after careful thought, and again, helping our client have the strongest position in their case.